My name is Evelyn. I'm 62 years old, and what I'm about to tell you will forever change how you look at the people closest to you, your own family. 4 days ago, my son Brandon and my daughter-in-law Sarah deliberately pushed my husband, Tom, and me off a 100-foot cliff in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. As I lay shattered on the rocks below, blood filling my mouth, I heard Tom's weak whisper through the pain, "Evelyn, don't move. Play dead." But that wasn't the worst of it. The worst came later, when Tom finally revealed the horrifying secret our son had buried for 25 years, a secret that proved Brandon had killed before and would kill again, all for money. For more than 4 decades, Tom and I built what we thought was the perfect American family in our quiet suburb just outside Denver. Every morning began with the smell of strong coffee brewing and birds singing in the pine trees that lined our street. I taught 3rd grade at Lincoln Elementary, coming home each afternoon with pockets full of crayon drawings and stories about my kids, their wide-eyed wonder, their endless questions. Tom ran his own custom woodworking business out of our garage workshop. His pieces, handcrafted dining tables, rocking chairs, hope chests, were prized across Colorado. Families saved for years to own one of his creations. His hands, rough from years of work, could turn raw lumber into heirlooms. We had 2 sons, James, our firstborn, and Brandon, 5 years younger. James was the light of our home, always laughing, always helping his dad sand and stain in the shop, always making sure I never carried groceries alone. Brandon was quieter, more withdrawn, but I loved him with every fiber of my being. Mothers don't have favorites, or at least that's what I believed. Sundays were sacred. Church in the morning. Then big family dinners around the massive oak table Tom had built with his own hands. James would talk excitedly about his plans to study engineering at Colorado State, while Brandon sat silently pushing food around his plate. Evenings, Tom and I would walk the trails behind our neighborhood, dreaming out loud retirement trips to the Grand Canyon, grandkids running through our yard. Growing old together in the house we'd paid off with decades of hard work. Weekends meant barbecues. My sisters Laura and Diane would drive in from Boulder with their husbands and kids. The backyard filled with the smell of grilling steaks. Children shrieking as they chased each other through sprinklers. Women swapping casserole recipes in the kitchen, while the men fixed fences or tuned up lawnmowers. Tom was my perfect partner. After 40 years, he still picked wildflowers on his way home from deliveries and left them on the kitchen counter. He helped me grade papers. I held boards steady while he cut them. We were a team. But even the happiest families can hide the darkest truths. When James turned 21, something shifted. He and Brandon started arguing in low voices, conversations that stopped the moment I walked into a room. Tom said it was just brothers being brothers, but I saw the tension in James's eyes, the coldness in Brandon's. I wanted our life to stay perfect, so I let myself believe him. One October night 25 years ago, James didn't come home for dinner. We waited until midnight, then 1 a.m., then 2. Brandon claimed he was upstairs studying. But when I asked if he'd heard from his brother, his eyes wouldn't meet mine. Tom organized search parties with neighbors. They checked every trail James loved in the foothills. At dawn, they found him at the bottom of a deep gorge in the Rockies. The sheriff ruled it a tragic accident. He'd gone night hiking alone and fallen. I collapsed at the funeral home. I never imagined the truth was infinitely worse. James's funeral was the darkest day of my life. I wore the same black dress I'd worn for my mother's service. Brandon stood dry and composed while I sobbed until I had nothing left. Tom held me up when my knees buckled, whispering comfort that I now know tasted like ash in his mouth. After James died, Brandon changed overnight. He became attentive, helpful, bringing me tea when I cried, spending hours with Tom in the workshop, stepping into the role of the good son. I thought grief had matured him, that he was trying to fill the void James left. How blind I was. He was building the perfect mask to hide what he'd become. Years passed. The pain never left, but we learned to live around it. Brandon married Sarah, a sweet-seeming woman from Colorado Springs, and they gave us 2 beautiful grandchildren. Brandon took over part of Tom's business and appeared successful. Life felt like it was healing, but lying broken at the bottom of that cliff. Everything I believed about my surviving son crumbled. It started 6 months ago when Tom and I decided to update our will. We'd saved diligently our whole lives, the house land inherited from my parents. Retirement accounts nearly $300,000 total. Brandon was the one who suggested it. "Mom, Dad, you're in your 60s. It's time to get everything in order," he said with a warm smile that now feels like a predator's grin. Sarah sat beside him holding my hand. "We just want you protected. We love you so much." Our lawyer, Robert Tan, old family friend, laid the options. Trusts. Splitting assets directly to the grandkids or a traditional will. Brandon pushed hard for him and Sarah to be sole beneficiaries. That way we can make sure the kids get their fair share later. And honestly, you'll need us as you get older. It's better if we control the funds for your care. Something about his tone made my skin crawl. But Tom, always more trusting, agreed. We signed the papers on a Tuesday afternoon. Sarah hugged me tight afterward. Now we're truly family forever. Her words sent ice through my veins, though I didn't understand why then after that their visits changed. They no longer came just to see us, they came with suggestions. Sarah would walk through our house eyeing Tom's handmade furniture like she was appraising it. "This place is way too big for just the two of you," she'd say. "You should think about selling and moving into a nice senior community in town. The market's hot right now." When I pushed back, telling her I could never leave the home where we'd raised our boys. Brandon's eyes flashed with irritation. "Mom, be realistic. What if one of you falls down the stairs? We wouldn't get here in time. And upkeep on a house this size, it's throwing money away." Tom began to agree, talking about practicality and easing the burden on Brandon. But one night after another tense dinner, I couldn't hold it in. "Tom, don't you think it's strange how obsessed they are with our finances all of a sudden?" He paused while brushing his teeth, and I saw doubt flicker across his face. Then, the lowest voice I'd ever heard from him, he said, "Evelyn, there are things about James's death I never told you." My heart stopped. "What things?" We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where James used to do his homework hand. Tom confessed everything he'd buried for 25 years. That night, James died. Brandon hadn't been studying. Tom had followed him after overhearing angry whispers. He watched from the shadows as his sons fought at the edge of the gorge. They were screaming about money, about thousands Brandon had been stealing from our savings account. James had discovered it. Small withdrawals at first, then larger ones. He'd gathered proof and confronted Brandon, threatening to tell us everything unless he confessed and repaid it. Tom arrived just in time to see the end. Brandon didn't trip his brother. He pushed him hard, deliberately. James flailed, grasping at air, then fell. When Tom reached Brandon, his youngest son was on his knees, crying, repeating, "It was an accident, Dad. He attacked me first. I was just defending myself." Tom, devastated, believing he had one son left, helped cover it up. He thought Brandon had learned his lesson. He wanted to believe his boy wasn't a monster, but Brandon never repaid a cent. He kept stealing small amounts. Tom pretended not to notice, because confronting him meant admitting he'd helped hide a murder. Tom had become an accomplice to protect what was left of our family. And now, I whispered, the pieces falling into place. "His business is failing," Tom said, voice breaking. "Over $150,000 in debt to banks and worse people. Our money is the only thing keeping him afloat." We realized with sickening clarity, Brandon wasn't just greedy. He was desperate. And desperate men do desperate things. It's been exactly 1 year since the trial ended. December 20th, 2025. The Colorado winters are harsh. But this morning the sun broke through the clouds and painted the snow on the Rockies gold. Just like it did on that terrible day we fell. Tom and I are still here, in the same house outside Denver. Some days the aches from our injurious flare up Tom's left leg gives him trouble when a storm rolls in. And Miss Holder still throbs when I lift anything heavy, but we're alive. That's more than we ever thought we'd be, the grandchildren. Lily 8 and Ethan 6. live with us now full-time. The adoption was finalized last spring. At first they were quiet, confused, asking why Mommy and Daddy couldn't come home. Well, they had to visit them through glass at the prison. We told them's truth in the gentlest way we could, that their parents had made very bad choices and hurt people they loved. And now they had to stay away, so everyone a cold, be safe. Kids are resilient. Lily Haas started drawing again bright pictures of mountains and wildflowers that she tapes all over the refrigerator. Ethan helps Tom in the workshop after school, sanding small blocks of wood with the same careful focus his grandfather has. They call us Grandma and Grandpa without hesitation now. Every Sunday. We still go to church, the same little stone building where Tom and I were married 41 years ago. Afterward, we have dinner at the big oak table. My sisters Laura and Diane come when they can, bringing their grandkids so Lily and Ethan have a cousins to play with. The house is full of noise and laughter again. The kin that used to echo when James and Brandon were small. But some nights, after the kids are asleep, Tom and I sit on the porch, wrapped in blankets, watching stars come out over the foothills. We talk about James a lot. I finally scattered his ashes last summer in the gorge, where he died not out of forgiveness for what happened there, but to give him peace. We placed a small plaque nearby. James Michael Thompson, beloved son and brother. 1979 to 2000. You tried to protect us all. The local news still runs stories about the case sometimes. It's a cliffside inheritance murder, but it's faded from the headlines. People in town nod kindly when they see us at the grocery store, but they don't pry. Colorado folks respect privacy. Brandon and Sarah are at separate facilities, now life sentences, no parole. Brandon wrote once a short letter claiming he was sorry for everything and asking if he could see the kids. We didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, can never be crossed again. Sarah tried to appeal, claiming she was coerced, but the recording from Tom's phone destroyed any chance of that. Every time I think about her voice on that tape, least won't have to pretend anymore, it still sends chills down my spine. We've turned James's old room into a playroom for the grandkids. His engineering textbooks are still on shelves, mixed in with Lily's dolls and Ethan's toy trucks. Sometimes I catch Lily staring at the photo we keep on the dresser, the four of us from a long ago Christmas. Tom, me, James grinning wide, and little Brandon on my lap. "Who's that boy, Grandma?" she asked once. "That's your Uncle James," I told her. "He was brave and kind, and he loved his family more than anything. One day when you're older, I'll tell you his whole story." She nodded solemnly and hugged. The photo to her chest, Tom sold part of. Through working business last year, just enough to pay off the medical bills and set up college funds for the kids. He still takes custom orders, though. There's something healing about watching him work with his hands again, creating beauty out of raw wood. We don't hike the high trails anymore. Instead, we walk the gentle paths near the house at sunset, hand in hand like we always have. Some wounds never fully heal, but they stop bleeding eventually. Family, we've learned, isn't just the people you're born to. It's the people you choose to love day after day, even when it's hard. It's the truth you fight for, even when it breaks your heart. James taught us that. And now, through Lily and Ethan, we're teaching it to the next generation. This is the end of our story for now. But it's also a beginning. If you're reading this and something feels wrong in your own family, the sudden interest in wills, the pressure to help with finances, the too perfect concern, trust your instincts. Speak up, reach out. Because sometimes the greatest danger isn't out there in the world. Asterisk. That phone call from Brandon inviting us on a special anniversary hike in the Rockies felt like a death sentence. We knew what it really was. An execution planned in the one place where accidents happen all too often. Bodies lost in ravines, searches called off after a few days. Perfect. We pretended to be excited. What a wonderful idea, son. I forced myself to say. Inside, Tom and Dee were terrified. Those final days at home were pure torment. We smiled through visits while Brandon and Sarah talked excitedly about the trail. Showed us the new hiking gear they'd bought, for safety, Brandon said. holding up ropes and a flare gun that I knew would unabused after we were gone. Sarah packed a picnic basket, sandwiches, fruit, bottled water, cookies. We'll have the best family day ever. She beamed. Every word felt like poison. Tom secretly activated recording app on his phone and slipped it into a hidden pocket. I wrote a long letter to my sister Laura explaining everything: James's murder, thefts, our suspicions, and hid it with our important papers. If we didn't come back, at least someone would know the truth. Saturday morning, Kamatu fast. Brandon arrived whistling, Sarah glowing like it was a holiday. They loaded us into their SUV and drove the 2 hours into the mountains. Country music playing, Sarah singing along. Tom held my hand the whole way, his thumb tracing circles the way he did when the boys were little and we were worried about storms. The trailhead was beautiful towering pines. Fresh air, the sound of a distant river. In another life, it would have been perfect. Brandon carried the heavy backpack full of safety equipment. Sarah snapped photos constantly, narrating like a tour guide. This will be such a treasured memory. The hike started easy, but they deliberately chose a strenuous path. Our legs burned. We were breathing hard within the first hour. They knew we weren't in shape for this. It was meant to wear us down. After 2 hours, Sarah suddenly pointed to a side trail. Look at that view. Let's go up there for pictures. The valley is incredible from that outcrop. The path was narrow, rocky, and led to a sheer 100-foot drop. Loose gravel everywhere. One wrong step. I tried one last protest. Honey, that looks too steep for us old folks. Brandon's smile didn't waver. Come on, Mom, we'll help you. It's only a few minutes up and the photos will amazing. Tom squeezed my hand. We had to go through with it. The recording was running. This was our only chance for evidence. The climb was brutal. Rocks slid under our feet. Brandon helped by holding my arm a little too tightly. At the top, the view was breathtaking: snow-capped peaks, endless forest, the river far below, like a silver ribbon. Sarah positioned us right at the edge for the perfect shot. Smile big. She called, camera raised. We hugged for the photo. Then Brandon said quietly, step back just a little. The background will look even better. One step back was Thebes. Sarah's mask finally dropped. Her voice went cold. This is going to be your last family photo. Brandon lunged. Tom was ready. He grabbed Brandon's arm and yelled, if we go down, you're coming with us. Chaos exploded. Sarah screamed and grabbed for Brandon. We all teetered on the edge, pulling and then the ground gave way. We fell together. For bodies tumbled through the air, screams echoing off the rocks. The impact stole my breath. Pain like fire everywhere. I heard bones snap. Mine, Tom's. There's blood in my mouth. For a moment, I thought this was it. Then Tom's whisper, Evelyn, play dead. I forced myself still, barely breathing. Minutes later, I heard Brandon and Sarah groaning, RB live, but hurt. Sarah's leg was broken. Brandon's arm hung wrong. They started crawling, whispering their story. We were taking pictures. A rock gave way. We tried to save them. Tragic accident. On Tom's hidden, every word was captured, Sarah laughing bitterly. At least we won't have to pretend anymore. Brandon, it's just like with James. No one will ever know. Rescuers arrived within our helicopters. Ropes, shouts. Brandon and Sarah played their parts perfectly. Devastated son and daughter-in-law. Begging the team to save us. They were airlifted first. Tom and I stayed limp. Paramedics checked us. They thought Tom was critical but clinging to life. Me? They weren't sure. In the helicopter, a sharp-eyed nurse noticed my vitals didn't match someone truly unconscious. Once we were alone in the trauma bay, she leaned close. Ma'am, if you're awake and in danger, squeeze my hand. I did. She brought in Dr. San police immediately. Tom, now conscious, handed over his phone. Their recording was crystal clear. The plan, the push. The confessions, including references to James that no innocent person would make. Police moved fast. While Brandon and Sarah sat in the waiting room giving tearful interviews to local news. We lost our beloved parents in a freak accident. Officers arrested them. Brandon's face when they cuffed him, pure shock. They're alive. That's impossible. We saw them die. His own words sealed it. Investigators tore apart Brandon's finances. His business was bankrupt, $150,000 owed to banks, another $80,000 to loan sharks who don't wait. Our deaths would have paid it all. They even found forged documents with my signature, draining accounts bit by bit. In custody, the allianz cracked. Sarah blamed Brandon. It was all his idea. Brandon screamed back, "You picked the cliff." You wanted them gone just as much. The trial was agony. I testified for 3 days, looking my son in the eye as I told the world what's done to James to us. When I finished, I said, "Brandon, the boy I resetted the night you killed your brother, whatever's sitting in that defendant's chair isn't my son." The jury took less than 4 hours. First-degree murder for James, attempted murder for us. Life without parole for both. No deals. A year later, Tom and I are home. Our injuries healed mostly. Some pain never goes away. We've been granted permanent custody of our grandchildren. They're young enough that, with love and time, they'll heal too. Every night I tuck them in and tell them stories about their Uncle James, the real hero of our family. The one who tried to protect us all. We still walk the neighborhood trails at sunset, holding hands like always. Only now we know that truth. Family isn't just blood, it's trust. And sometimes the people closest to you are the ones you need to fear the most. The snow is falling softly outside the kitchen window this morning, just like it did 5 years ago, on the day I wrote the epilogue to what we all thought was the end of our story. But life, I've learned, doesn't wrap up neatly like a book. It keeps going, sometimes painfully, sometimes beautifully. Tom and I are both in our late 60s now. His hair is fully silver, and he walks with a cane on bad days, but he's still out in the workshop most afternoons, teaching Ethan how to carve simple wooden animals. At 11, Ethan has his grandfather's steady hands and quiet focus. He built his first birdhouse last summer, and when he showed it to Tom, they both had tears in their eyes. Some things get passed down that have nothing to do with blood. Lily is 30-year-old and thoughtful, with James's smile. She won the regional science fair last spring with a project on forensic evidence reconstruction. When the judges asked what inspired her, she said quietly, "My Uncle James. He was trying to protect this family when he died." The local paper ran a story about it. I reading it in the grocery store checkout line. The kids know the full truth now in an age-appropriate way. We never hid it from them. Therapy helped both individual sessions and family ones. Lily sometimes asks questions about her parents that break my heart. Did they ever really love us, Grandma? I tell her yes, in their own broken way. But love isn't in a fifth. It's mixed with greed and lies. Real love protects. That's what James did. That's what we're doing now, Brandon and Sarah Aristide in prison. Brandon's appeals ran out 2 years ago. Sarah tried to reach out last Christmas letter, saying she was in a prison rehabilitation program, wanted to make amends. We read it together as a family. Then Lily wrote back on behalf of all of us. A polite, firm note saying we wished her well but needed to keep our distance for the children's sake. It was hard. Boutique was healing. The house feels a live again. We added on a sunroom last year where I still grade papers S. I went back to teaching part-time. 3rd graders keep you young. Tom sold the last office business tools but kept the workshop for the grandkids. On weekends, they'd fills with their friends' bike ramps. Fort building. It's a kind of chaos that'ist to happen when James and Brandon were boys. We took the kids to the Grand Canyon last summer. Something Tom and I always dreamed of doing in retirement. Standing at the edge, a safe, railed viewpoint this time. Watching sunrise paint the rocks red and gold. Lily slipped her hand into mine and whispered, "Uncle James would have loved this." Ethan nodded solemnly on my other side. In that moment, with a vast canyon stretching out before us, I felt something shift, healing, finally complete. We'd become unlikely advocates. I speak sometimes at senior centers about elder financial abuse. sharing warning signs without going into the full horror of our story. Tom Andy started a small scholarship in James's name for engineering students who show moral courage. His professor said that was what defined him most. People still recognize us occasionally. You're that couple from the news. They'll sit quietly. We just smile and nod. The Cliffside inheritance case has become one of those true crime stories that lives on in podcasts and documentaries. We declined all interviews. Some things are ours alone. Tonight, like every December 20th, we'll light a candle for James after the kids are asleep. We'll sit at the oak table Tom built all those decades ago. Hold hands and remember not just the pain, but the love that came before it, the love that came after. Family isn't perfect. It's not even always safe. But it can be redeemed. One choice at a time. One day at a time. James taught us that the grandchildren are living proof. This isn't the ending wetland all those years ago, when Tom and I dreamed on evening walks, but it's the one we have. And somehow, against all odds, it's enough. The decade slipped by faster than I ever imagined it could. This morning, as I watched the first real snow of the season blanket the pines behind our house, I realize it's been exactly 10 years since that terrifying fall land. 10 years since Tom and I began rebuilding a life we never thought we'd have. Tom is 72 now. His hands are arthritic, and he sold the last of his tools a couple of years ago. But Hestel spends hours in the workshop with Ethan, supervising from his old rocking chair while his grandson does the actual carving. Ethan is 16 tall, quiet, and steady like his grandfather. He just got accepted early decision to Colorado State for engineering. When the acceptance letter came, he brought it straight out of the workshop and laid it on the bench where James used to work. Tom creed without shame, "I did too." Lily is 18. She graduated high school last spring as valedictorian and is heading to the University of Colorado Boulder in January on a full scholarship, the James Michael Thompson Moral Courage Award we helped establish. She's studying forensic science and criminal justice. Her senior project was a detailed analysis of financial motive crimes against the elderly. She dedicated it to my Uncle James, who saw the truth when no one else did, and to my grandparents, who survived to tell it. The kids are thriving, truly. They talk openly about their parents, now not with bitterness, but with calm acceptance that comes from years of therapy and unconditional love. They visit Brandon and Sarah once a year, supervised on their own terms. Lily says the visits give her closure. Ethan says they remind him why honesty matters. We support whatever they need. They're old enough to choose. We lost Tom's brother last year, heart attack. Sudden but peaceful. At the funeral, Ethan gave theology. He spoke about family not being perfect, but about choosing every day to do the right thing anyway. Half the church was in tears. Our house is quieter now that the kids are older, but it's still full. Lily's friends come over toastati. Ethan's teammates raid the fridge after games. We downsized the Gordon, too much for aging backs, but the sunroom is my favorite place. I read from teaching 5 years ago, but I volunteer at the elementary school twice a week, reading to third graders. Their hugs still feel like medicine. We took one last big trip 2 years ago, Route 66 from Chicago to Santa Monica. Just Tom and Dom, like we dreamed when we were young. We stopped at every cheesy Road City attraction, ate too much diner food, and held hands across the front seat off the old pickup. At the Santa Monica Pier, watching the sun set over the Pacific, Tom turned to me and said, "We made it, Evie. Despite everything, we really made it." Brandon and Sarah remaining prison. Brandon's health is failing, early onset Parkinson's, the doctors say. He asked to see us once through his lawyer. We declined. Some chapters shaved to stay closed. Sarah was denied Paralegal last month. The board cited lack of genuine remorse. Lily read the decision out loud to us over dinner. We didn't celebrate. We just held each other a little tighter. The true crime world still circles, occasionally a new podcast here, a documentary there, but we've learned to say no. Our story isn't entertainment. It's a warning, yes, but mostly it's ours. Tonight, like every December 20, we'll gather at the oak table. Ethan will light the candle for James. Lily will read a poem she wrote for her uncle when she was 12. The one that starts, "You fell trying to hold the truth up for all of us." We'll eat Tom's famous chili and laugh about old memories, the good ones, from before everything broke, and tomorrow. Tomorrow, keep going, because that's what survivors do. James would be 56 this year. I like to think he'd be proud of his niece and nephew. Of the way Tom and Auntie chose love over bitterness, of the life we've built from the ashes. Family isn't what you're given. It's what you fight for. It's what you choose every single day. 20 years have passed since that terrible fall in the Rockies. I am writing this on the morning of what would have been our 61st wedding anniversary. Tom isn't here to read it with me. He passed peacefully in his sleep last March at 79, holding my hand just like he did on every evening walk we ever took. The doctor said his heart simply wore out a quiet ending for a man who carried so much weight for so long. We had 15 more good years after the trial. 15 years of sunrises over the mountains, off watching Lily and Ethan grow into extraordinary adults, knowing finally that truth had won. Lily is 28 now, a forensic investigator with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. She was Theon who closed the last cold case tied to elder financial abuse in our county last year. When the news interviewed her, she dedicated the resolution to my grandparents who taught me that survival isn't just about staying Levitts, about making sure the truth outlives the lies. Ethan, 26, is a structural engineer in Boulder. He designs bridges, strong, honest structures meant to connect people safely. He named his first major project the James Thompson Span, a pedestrian bridge over a gorge in the foothills. Tita, Cation. Plaque reads, "For my uncle who fell trying to hold his famila Tagather. May this bridge remind us that some things are worth standing firm for." They both married wonderful partners in the last few years. Lily's wife, Maya, is a teacher, like I was. Ethan's husband, Alex, is a woodworker who apprenticed under Tom in his final years. We have 2 grandbabies, no James, after his great-uncle, and Evelyn after me. They run through the same yard where their parents unsplayed, chasing the same sunlight. The house is quieter these days. I sold it to Lily and Maya last year and moved into a small Coda Genevieve, kind of downsizing Brandon and Sarah once tried to force on us. The difference is, this time it was my choice. I kept the oak table Tom built. It's on my dining room now, still hosting Sunday dinners when everyone comes over. Brandon died in prison 3 years ago. Complications from Parkinson's. Sarah is still serving her sentence. The kids went to Brandon's memorial service out of respect for the man. He might have been not the man he became. They tell me they've made their peace. I have to. James's plaque and fiddles has become a quiet place of reflection.
Parole.
Leave flowers amid strangers who heard the story and wanted to honor someone who treats her do the right thing. Lily takes her children there every year on the anniversary of his death. As for me, I'm 82. My body is slower, but my heart is full. I still volunteer at the elementary school, reading to 3rd graders. They call me Grandma Evie and fight over Woggets to sit next to me during story time. This morning, I walk at the gentle trail behind my cottage at sunrise. The mountains were pink with Thalpinglo, the air crisp and clean. I stopped at the bench Ethan built for Mellist summer and sat for a while, thinking of all of them. James, Tom, the frightened old woman I once was lying broken at the bottom of a cliff, certain it was themed. It wasn't the end, it was the beginning of something stronger. Family isn't the people who will hurt you. It's the people who help you heal. It's the truth you carry forward. It's the love you choose to give even when it's hard. James started that chain of courage. Tom and I carried it. Lily and Ethan live it every day. And now as I watch my great-grandchildren grow, I know it will go on long after I'm gone. This is the real ending of our story. Not the fall, not the betrayal. Not even the justice, the real ending. Ice love, quiet, stubborn, enduring love that outlasted every lie. I'm ready now. When my time comes, I'll go peacefully, knowing the family we built from the ashes is stronger than anything that tried to destroy us. To anyone reading this woe, faced betrayal in the place they should have been safest, you are not alone. The truth matters. Healing is possible. And love always wins in the end with a lifetime of gratitude. Evelyn Marie Thompson.